All right, our next shape is rectangle, and the rectangle, as you can see, is also on the same notes as the rhombus. And with the rectangle, it shouldn't be as long. Not that we have to rush it, but just that there is not as many properties, and I think most people are more familiar with a rectangle. So we already know this has 7 properties. It has opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent, diagonals bisect each other. We already know that. We know the opposite corners are congruent. We know these corners are supplementary. We know all that. What makes a rectangle different than a rhombus? The rhombus, one thing is that all the sides are congruent. That's not true in a rectangle. What is true in a rectangle is the corners are 90 degrees. So one is angles are 90 degrees. Now you need to keep that different than in a rhombus. The diagonals are perpendicular, causing this angle to be 90 degrees. Now I'm talking about the corners all being 90 degrees. And then lastly, the only thing that's new to a rectangle is since it's kind of a parallelogram standing straight up, the diagonals are congruent. And if the diagonals are congruent, then that means this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece are all congruent since they're bisected. So really this is the same length as this, but because they're bisected, now all of them are the same. So I'm going to go to my flow chart and I'm going to fill in those two. 1, angles are 90 degrees. And 2, diagonals are perpendicular. Sorry, diagonals are congruent is what I mean. Sorry, diagonals are congruent. So when I go back, we're really going to jump right into the math of the rectangle because there's not too much more we need to do. So if you would look at this real quick, I'd like you to see that you can maybe go ahead and see if you can figure out anything. So the first property of a rectangle is that the corners are 90. So what I'm going to do is take 90 minus 56 and figure out this corner's 34. Well, because of alternate interior, I know this is 34 and I know that's 56. I do tell you in this that WY is 33. So if I take 33 and divide by 2, I do know that, for example, XO is 16 and a half. All right, and WZ we're going to talk about is a side in a second. So that's as far as we kind of get with the properties of a rectangle, but there's something we need to think about. The diagonals are congruent, which means these are the same and so are these, which then creates in here what type of triangle? Sides are the same. Correct. Isosceles triangle. So if that's 34, this is 34, and then this is 56. Alternate interior tells me 56 or 34, or given that everything is an isosceles triangle, if that's 56, that is 56. So now I have that. The only thing I may ask you for these angles, well, again, we're in a triangle, 34 and 34. Minus 180 is 112. Vertical angles, 112. Supplementary angle, 68. So take a second and see if you can figure out, go ahead and see if you can figure out the other angle measures or what the page is asking. All right, so XWO is 34. We can see that. and ZOY, I did for you, is 112 now. Okay, and then WZ, and WZ is here. We don't have any side lengths except for we do know that WY or XZ is 33. But if this is the side I'm looking for, I know this WZY makes a right triangle. So obviously we know everything about right triangles. So if I put an X there and I know this is 33, I can use either 34 or I could have put 56 up here. It didn't matter. So now which one am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine of 34 is X over 33. This is where you cross multiply. X is sine of 34 times 33. Making sure we're in the right mode, 18.45 or 18.5. Okay, so as you can see, in the rhombus, the right triangles tend to be inside the figure, whereas in the rectangle, the right triangle is the bigger outside triangle that we're going to use. Okay. All right. Please complete the activity that I asked. Thank you.